Bitcoin. The more things change, the more they stay the same. Bitcoin goes through cycles, which are very similar when you chart them out, but the reasons for the pumps and dumps are very different. People always want to say, but this time it's different. But all I do is go back to the charts. So are you ready to time Bitcoin's bottom? Well, you don't really have a choice because it's time for Chico Crypto. Yup, there is no doubt the bears have taken over once again. The 2-week chart of Bitcoin looks disgustingly bearish, retracing from above 24K all the way down to just below 20K, breaking that critical support. This has traders and investors freaked out, saying we are going to dump some more and the Bitcoin bottom isn't in, while 2 weeks ago they were all bullish. Well, I haven't changed my opinion. I've been saying for the longest time that Bitcoin hasn't bottomed out, and I have had a feeling that the bottom is coming next month in September, which begins tomorrow. But before we get into analyzing previous Bitcoin cycles to estimate the exact day BTC will bottom and what the price will be, we need to look into the reasons on why September could be a very bearish month. Number 1, September historically is Bitcoin's worst month. Since 2013, 7 of the last 9 Septembers have been bearishly red, with the last 5 years since 2017 being consecutive red. As we can see from this chart of Bitcoin's returns by month, September is dead last, meaning September is normally a really bad month. Now, what could be the reasons for this red? BTC just isn't going to dump for no reason. Well, September is a month with many important days in the macro world of finance. The first important date, it's in 2 weeks on September 13th. Checking out the Consumer Price Index calendar, this day is when the August inflation numbers come out. And this is a very important inflation reading, as last month's reading for July cooled down to 8.5% after a record was set for June of 9.1%. The markets want inflation to keep cooling, not have another rebound of inflation like we had after April's reading. So what is going to happen on September 13th? Will inflation rise? Will inflation fall? Or will it stay the same? Well, we have had a few inflation readings for August already. Germany was one of the first to release, and their inflation rose back to 7.9% after 2 months of cooling off. The next reading was from Spain, and their inflation cooled off, down to 10.4% after 4 straight months of increases. One of the only other readings so far was from Belgium, and their inflation rose again after cooling off last month. 1 Eurozone country has fallen, while 2 have risen. Is it possible US inflation follows the overall trend and rises? Well, what are the people thinking? If you didn't know, you can actually bet on the inflation reading on a website called Kalshi, and the majority of people, 71% of them, think that inflation won't rise in August. This is because the average consumer is more confident. Checking out the Consumer Confidence Index, it rose in the month of August for the first time since August of last year. And this has a lot to do with the falling gas prices, which continued to plummet throughout August, from a US average of $4.18 per gallon down to $3.81, a nearly 9% decrease in just a month. So will falling energy prices be enough to keep inflation from rising? Only time will tell, but in my opinion, it's a coin flip, and the markets do not like uncertainty. The next major day in September, which could rattle the markets, comes just 1 week after the CPI data. On September 21st, the Fed will announce their interest rate decision at the next FOMC meeting. Now, the Fed has been extremely hawkish the past 2 Fed FOMC meetings, raising it by an aggressive 75 basis points for each one. Now, after this last meeting and Powell's remarks, the majority consensus was that these interest rate increases would slow. From this Bloomberg article, top economists surveyed said they expect the Federal Open Market Committee to lift rates by a half percentage point in September, then shift to quarter-point hikes at the remaining 2 meetings of the year. That would lift the upper range of the central bank's policy target to 3.5% by the end of 2022, the highest level since early 2008. And the markets love the idea of a coming slowdown. It's one of the reasons the stock market and crypto was doing so well post FOMC in late July. Well, homeboy Jerome decided to stop the party and freak the markets out. Just last week, he spoke at Jackson Hole on inflation and the economy. Let's listen in to what he had to say.
While the lower inflation readings for July are certainly welcome, a single month's improvement falls far short of what the committee will need to see before we are confident that inflation is moving down. So, we are moving our policy stance purposefully to a level that will be sufficiently restrictive to return inflation to 2%.
They are adjusting their policy to be purposely restrictive to get inflation down to the target 2%. How? Well, let's continue.
July's increase in the target range was the second 75 basis point increase in as many meetings, and I said then that another unusually large increase could be appropriate at our next meeting.
He hints that another unusually large rate increase could be coming at this September meeting. Unusually large, like another 75 basis point raise? So my friends, this month could be the serious 1-2 punch to the financial world gut. If inflation doesn't drop and stays neutral or rises, we can almost guarantee the Fed will be doing another 75-point raise. And even if it drops, this type of raise is still on the table. Now that we have the reasons that could trigger a fall this month, let's talk about the Bitcoin bottom, when it could come and how far the price will fall. And I like to look at history to figure this out, because the more things change, the more they stay the same.
The more things change, the more they stay the same.
In Bitcoin's first cycle, the peak came on June 9th, 2011. The bottom of that cycle came the same year, in November on the 19th. This was a top to bottom of just 164 days. In Bitcoin's next cycle, the top came on December 5th, 2013, and the bottom for this cycle didn't come until January 15th, 2015. This was a top to bottom of 407 days. Next, we have the third cycle. The peak for this one happened on December 17th, 2017. And the bottom for this one came nearly a full year later, on December 16th, 2018. This was a top to bottom of 364 days. So cycle 1's top to bottom was 164 days, cycle 2 was 407 days, and cycle 3 was 364 days. Pretty dang wide range of dates, so I would just take the average. The average of these three numbers, it's about 312 days. If this cycle's peak was hit on November 10th, 2021, 312 days later would be September 18th, just before the Fed's FOMC meeting. But this isn't the first time I have predicted around this date. Back in May, using Bitcoin halving, I predicted the bottom coming just after the Fed's meeting, September 23rd. But what could the price be for this bottom? Will the 20K level hodl? Will 17.5K hodl? Or could we go even lower? Well, I just want to replay a clip from May using previous cycles and having data where I predicted the bottom, because I don't change my opinions. The percent fall from the top to bottom is decreasing with each cycle. From 94% to 87% is a decrease of 7%. From 87% to 84% is 3%. I think taking an average of those two numbers is a better way to analyze this data, which would be 5% from the last fall of 84%, or a 79% decrease for this cycle. That would mean the price this cycle and Bitcoin bottom would be about $14,500. I predicted based on previous cycles' percent drawdown that this cycle's bottom would be about $14,500. Although there is another way to possibly predict what the bottom could be this month. Going back to the percent drawdowns in September, we could just take the average of all the months, adding them up and dividing by 9. We get an average decline of 5.92%. So let's just say August ends at 20K. A 5.92% decrease from this would give us about $18,800. So you heard it here first. Bitcoin will find its September bottom between the 18th and 23rd of next month, and the price will be somewhere between $14,500 and $18,800. Cheers, viewers. I'll see you next time.